Monk is one of those classes that I just keep coming back to because of how much better it is in Baldur's Gate 3 than 5th edition. And that is certainly the case here with my Praise the Sun Monk build. Utilizing both Light Domain Cleric and Open Hand Monk, we get to have a ton of fun stacking Radiance damage to the roof. The nice thing about this build, because it's a monk, is that a lot of the abilities that you'll get access to will just cascade as you level, and find that the gear that makes us even stronger is going to just, well, happen as you organically go through the game. Monk being not as heavily reliant on gear enables you to have a lot of fun fast, so you can use this immediately at level 1 or at max level, your call. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. So with that being said, this build uses 5 or 7 levels in Open Hand Monk, and then the opposite, 7 or 5 levels into Domain Cleric, or Light Domain Cleric. This will be, of course, dependent upon you, the character you have in mind, and the other ones in your party. If you want to have more cleric spells and take advantage of improved ward, then you're going to want to help mitigate that damage to your party as well, so you'll want 7 levels into cleric. If you want to lean heavier into the melee burst damage and get some very strong defensive capabilities in evasion and stillness of mind, then go 7 levels into monk. This will come down to you and your playstyle, but we'll talk about both in the video, so don't worry. But if that's the entire breadth of what we'll be covering here today, so if that's all you wanted to know, then please feel free to shut the video down and go praise the sun, brother. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. I currently have 89% unsubscribed viewership on the channel, and that's a metric I'm trying to change this year, so every little bit helps. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline and the description, and if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, check out my playlists linked in the comments below. At the end of the video, it's everywhere. Let's get started here on the Warrior of Sunlight Monk build in Baldur's Gate 3. Taking a look at character creation, we can really go a lot of different directions with the character. Really go with whatever race makes sense for you because this is a single player narrative game. But Halfling's always a really strong choice because you get access to stuff like Lucky. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can reroll the die and must use the new roll. Just keep in mind if you choose something like a half-orc, which is typically very good for a melee-oriented build, something like Savage Attacks says when you land a critical hit with a melee weapon attack. So while this will work with monk weapons, it will not work with unarmed attacks, which we will actually be focusing on for this build. Just want to be upfront about that, but you can still get the benefit of stuff like Relentless Endurance, so that if you get downed, you still come back to life with 1 more hit point. Human's always fine here because it gives you a little bit more carrying capacity. Stuff like dwarfs are really fun, especially the gold dwarf, which gives you 1 more hit point here per level. So your hit point max increases by 1 and increases by 1 again every time you gain a level. So it just gives you a lot of survivability on top of the fact that you have an advantage on saving throws against poison and a resistance against poison, which is actually a very prevalent damage type in the game. Tiefling is great because of the innate abilities that you'll get. I really like the Mephistopheles Tiefling because of all of the cantrips that you get. You start with Mage Hand, but then you eventually get Burning Hands and Flame Blade. Flame Blade you'll unfortunately not use as this character, but I really do like Burning Hands for this one. Asmodeus Tieflings get access to Hellish Rebuke, which is very nice, and Darkness, which can also be quite good, just blind things around you. Zariel Tieflings, their cantrips are all melee weapon oriented, so I would stay away from them. Even just going with something simple like a Wood Elf, which gives you 10 more movement speed, is actually very strong for a monk. This gives you a lot of mobility because you being a monk will give you even more mobility, which we'll cover as we level up. But all outside of those, you really can't go wrong. A good one too, as always, is the Gith. Real big fan of them. They have a lot of nice proficiencies to start with. Short sword, long sword, and great sword. You being a monk, remember any weapon you are proficient in is considered a monk weapon. This gives you the advantage of being able to essentially use weapons you wouldn't. Now again, we will be using unarmed, but you can use this up until we get to the point that unarmed is going to take over for, well, non-unarmed. And you get 3 really great, 2 really good cantrips. Mage Hand is one of them, it's whatever. But then you get Enhanced Leap and Misty Step at levels 3 and 5. Those are so strong. I really, really love it. And you also get this Astral Knowledge capability to gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. So Choose whatever race makes sense for you. Hopefully this helps you out. And we will be starting with the Cleric. And the reason behind that is we want to get Radiance of Dawn online as fast as possible. That is part of your light domain channel divinity capabilities. So for our cantrips, we're going to just skip out on resistance and pick up Blade Ward. These three are going to help us throughout the entirety of our campaign. Sacred Flame is just another form of radiant damage, so that will be nice to have. Domain is, of course, light. Keep in mind, with that, we're going to get Warding Flare. Now, if you go with a level 7 Cleric, you'll get improved Warding Flare, but the nice thing about this is shield yourself with the Divine Light, use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker, possibly causing their attacks to miss. It's just so good because you can kind of just use this thing non-stop. It is a very fun ability. The light domain spells are whatever, Burning Hands and Fairy Fire, so those are neither here nor there. For the deity, we're going to go with Lathander. It doesn't matter who you go with. Pelor is the deity of the sun, but we can't choose him in this game. So this is just for your own personal choice. Now for our background here, go with please whatever makes sense for you in the narrative you've built for this character. Please build a narrative for the character that you're playing. It makes playing through very fun, and you kind of choose the decisions of this character you have in mind, less so the ones that are min-maxy, right? Like, are you a former soldier who has kind of seen too much war and has turned to some sort of clerical monastic society, whatever it is? Are you a former sage that in your monastic pursuits has pursued some sort of divinity with it? All sorts of different backgrounds you can create for your character. As always, my typical kind of min-maxy approach is the Guild Artisan. If you do not want to do that and you just want, hey, just give me a number guy, this is the one because it grants us insight and persuasion. These are two of the more prevalent checks in the game, and if you fail them in certain conversations, you actually kind of shut off certain things within the game. Also nice to know if you're a Gith, there's tons of weapons and armor that are accessible only to Gith. So it's actually a super strong race. But let's now talk, well, you know what, let's go into skills first. Really just choose whatever you want here. If you're not going to make a bunch of things with herbalism, don't bother with medicine. But religion's actually pretty good as far as dealing with those roles. Same thing with history. And since we already have insight and persuasion chosen through our Guild Artisan, this puts us in a pretty good position. Let's now talk about our ability scores. Now, as far as things go for a monk and a cleric, this is going to be perfect for us, right? We get plenty of dexterity, which is going to help us out with being a monk and also being a cleric, because it's going to give us our armor save. It's going to give us our initiative bonus. This is going to help us out if we're using any kind of finesse weapons. But again, we're using unarmed, so it's not really going to matter. And we get plenty of wisdom. This is going to help us for our cleric spells, and it's going to help us an absolute ton for all of our abilities as a monk, because a lot of them are going to help out with wisdom benefits. Some items are going to pull from these wisdom check benefits, or that +3 wisdom right there. It's going to be quite good. Also, we have 14 constitution. This is going to give us a +2 to any of our concentration rolls, and it gives us a nice healthy pool of hit points. Lastly, I went with 12 charisma because I'm assuming this is going to be your main character. If it's not your main character, you can just drop this all the way down to 8 if you want and put the points somewhere else. I mean, unfortunately, you're kind of jammed up in that anything you put points into is not really going to equal an even number. And remember, every even number over 10 gives you +1 to that ability score roll. So, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could put it into strength if you don't want to deal with the carry capacity issues, but we're not using strength at all. So just keep that in mind. I think 12 charisma is a really good spot to be in, especially if it is your main character, because you can see persuasion gets that nice +3. It's going to be nice and juicy for you. Outside of that, let's talk about our spells really quick when we're starting off. We're going to stick with Guiding Bolt because this isn't, again, a source of radiant damage, and the next attack roll against this target has advantage. So you actually will probably use this quite a bit, depending upon how you approach the game, your character, and your play style. Bless is a very good one here. I love it, absolutely. It's just a nice little free buff of, well, not free, it does cost you an action, but keep in mind it is a concentration ability. Just a nice way to get a good little buff in the beginning. Also, Sanctuary is one that you'll be using quite a bit throughout the game, depending upon certain things that go down. You'll use this to cast onto an ally to keep them alive, and maybe a certain narrative portion of the game. It's just a nice way to completely mitigate damage to someone you're trying to keep alive, even if it's someone that's like right on death's door. And the nice thing too is it's a bonus action and a non-concentration ability, so it gives you a lot of value out of this one little ability. Command can be very good if you don't have another cleric in the party, especially in the very beginning of the game, so that you can command the tiefling to drop their sword. You'll see a big old flaming sword. You can use command. He'll drop his sword and you can take it. The Blade of Avernus is very, very good. Protection from evil and good is also quite good. Keep in mind, it is a concentration ability, but it lasts until long rest, which is very nice. And it counts for aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. You'll be dealing with those quite a bit in this game, and you can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by them, which is lovely. And they have a disadvantage if they attack. So this can be quite nice to cast, and it is a really good ability. You can use Shield of Faith at the very beginning of the game. It is also a pretty good one to help you out with some early armor class issues if you have any. But let's just go ahead and go with that. So this would be my starting lineup for spells. Let's jump into the progression for this character. So leveling up here, right away we're just going to stick one more level into Cleric. The reason behind this is we want to get this, Radiance of the Dawn. The sun's divine power dispels any magical darkness. It doesn't affect creatures that have total cover from you. Basically what this does is it's a 30-foot AoE damage spell that does 2d10 plus 1. That plus 1 is your character level. I'm currently only level 1. Why I like this versus a lot of other things when it comes to kind of multi-classing is that sometimes that plus is based off of the class level versus the character level or a specific stat ability. In this case, we can benefit it because we're going to get 12 levels into this character. And for those that watch my videos, I finally reached level 12. So we can see this build in its full entirety. But this will get that full plus 12. It's not a huge amount of damage at the end of the game, but it's a nice AoE spell. And if we get this online immediately, you can use it throughout Act 1 and especially through Act 2, where this will absolutely capsize a lot of the opposition you'll face. It's a really strong ability. It's one of my favorite when it comes to the light domain cleric, which is already kind of a blaster range damage cleric as it is. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this ability right here. For our prepare spells, again, this is a lot of the same situation we were talking about before, so don't really worry about this. Whatever you've done before is fine. You can now just add another spell into the mix if you so wish, whatever you want to do. And now that we've leveled up, we're going to pop off of Cleric and we're going to go over to Monk. And we're going to stick here for quite a bit of time. And if you do not know these things about Monk, this is when we're going to talk about them. So here's a couple things. So for one, we have unarmored defense in the same way that a barbarian does, but only ours works for dexterity and wisdom versus dexterity and constitution. It's why we have high dex and wisdom in this build. So while not wearing armor, you add your wisdom modifier to your armor class, meaning that we will now get +3 and +3. So we will get 6 AC from our base armor of 10, making it so that at the start of the game, well, I guess at level 3, we have 16 armor class, which is more than most medium armor wearers. So this is a very, very huge capability for us. We also get martial arts dexterous attacks, so attacks with monk weapons and armed attacks go with your dex modifier instead of your strength, so that's going to give a +3 for us. Death strikes, attacks with monk weapons and armed deal 1 to 4 bludgeoning damage unless their normal damage is higher. And then we get bonus unarmed strike. So whenever we do an attack with monk or unarmed, you can make another unarmed attack as a bonus action. So we have a very nice volatile bonus action we can take advantage of. Which reminds me is you can kind of go kind of crazy with this build and drop 2 levels into Rogue to get an additional bonus action for even more hits. But I want to keep this kind of simple. So we're going to pick up Monk right now. Get to level 2. This gives us 3 fun actions. Also too, remember I was saying that Monk itself is very mobile, right? So unarmored movement, this now is going to give us an extra 10 feet while you're not wearing armor or using a shield. So now if you're a wood elf, and for example, this character is a wood elf, we get a total of 20 feet extra movement as this character, which is very strong. Also, key points are what is going to be able to kind of turn on a lot of our abilities as a monk, which we'll talk about once we get past this section. And as you can tell, my allergies are clearing up, but I still sound like I'm talking through a jar. As far as our actions go, we have Patient Defense, Step of the Wind Dash, and Step of the Wind Disengage. So we can use a bonus action and a key point to give us a little bit of bonus here, right? So disadvantage, attack rolls against you have disadvantage, and you have advantage on dexterity saving throws. Or this allows us to sprint, and jump no longer requires a bonus action. Or dash, not sprint, sorry. Or disengage, and jump no longer requires a bonus action. So This allows you to have a lot of mobility as this class, and we're really going to lean into a lot of these defensive capabilities. As we kind of push up, we choose our subclass, and it is the Way of the Open Hand, because this will eventually evolve at level 6 Monk to enable us to do radiant damage. So taking a look at this, Flurry of Blows push, Flurry of Blows stagger, and Flurry of Blows topple. So we can use our bonus action and key points to basically do more damage and then throw in a little effects here, right? So knock them into prone, stagger them, or push them, which again, just is a really nice capability to have. And this is a bonus action, so it's a fun little ability to add on top of our just raw damage we're doing to the face. But now we're finally reached level 4, and we get Slow Fall, which is cool. You get resistance to falling damage and another key point, but now we get a feat. So let's talk about the feats. As far as our feat option goes, they're kind of limited. You're not using any kind of special armor, you're not using any melee weapons, and your spell casting isn't necessarily geared towards a lot of range damage. While you can do it like that, it's not as absolutely crucial. So our list is not as wide. I think the biggest one and most important one is probably just simply ability improvement. We put 2 more points into wisdom just to make it so that we get that nice +4. It's a nice thing to just kind of have that going for yourself. Outside of that, you can go with something like Lucky, which is, I think, just something that's good for every single character in the game. You gain 3 luck points, which you can use to gain advantage on attack, ability, or saving throws, or to make an enemy re-roll their attack rolls. It's very nice to kind of dodge a really heavy hit. Mage Slayer is actually pretty cool too. When a creature casts a spell within melee range of you, you have advantage on any saving throw against it. You also have tons of ways to just mitigate magic damage coming your way, so this kind of adds to it. You can also use a reaction to immediately make an attack against the caster, which enables you to start the game or start your turn using your bonus action to do an attack with your unarmed attack if you want. But enemies you hit have disadvantage on concentration saving throws against you, so that is nice if you're trying to break someone's concentration. Outside of that, you can go with a specific resilience towards, say, Constitution, which will help you. Gives you proficiency in Constitution saving throws, which concentration rolls are. So this can help you out with that. You could also use Warcaster, since we will be in melee a lot, and you'll gain advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration spells. Advantage is different than a proficiency bonus, right? You're rolling 2 die versus just getting a flat bonus. So this is just an option. I wanted to throw it out there for you. You don't necessarily need to go this route. And another one too is Spell Sniper. If you want to really lean into the spell casting capabilities of the Cleric, this makes it so that we can crit on a 19 and a 20 rather than just simply a 20, and you can pick up another cantrip if you so wish. You can go with even just simple stuff like Tough if you want. Your hit points max increased by 2 for every level you have gained if you want to really lean into just more tankability. Mobile's a pretty good one here since we're not going to Monk level 9. Monk level 9 would basically give us a lot of these abilities, but your movement speed increases, and difficult terrain doesn't slow you down when you dash. If you move after making a melee attack, you don't provoke opportunity attacks from your target. So basically, we're now getting an additional 10 feet, which at Monk level 6 will get another 10 feet, and we already got 10 feet, and I'm a Wood Elf, so I get even more 10 feet. So I can really use mobile to get around the battlefield a lot. So I'm just going to go really simply here with the ability improvement score because I think it's the right way to go at the very beginning, but go with whatever makes sense for you and your character. After that, let's go keep leveling up Monk. Now we've gotten to level 5. This gives us extra attack. It's a crucial point in this build. And from here, you also get Stunning Strike. Stunning Strike is really nice here as well. It just has so much capability attached to it, and it also will key off of your wisdom. So the more wisdom you have, the more plus it does to this. Of great ability. Now you can decide at this point. I'll even press accept. Do I stay with Monk and bring it up to level 7? Or do I pivot back to Cleric and bring Cleric up to level 7? It's really up to you and the character you want. For this build, I truly think that it needs to at least be 6 Monk, so that there'd be a 6 Monk, 6 Cleric, or 7 Monk, 5 Cleric. Just depends upon you. And the reason behind that is this ability right here. Manifestation of Soul. Infuse your strikes with ki from outside your body. Your unarmed attacks deal an additional 5 to 8 radiant damage. Radiant damage is what I'm hinging this entire build on. So for me, this makes the most sense, and I don't want to dodge away from it. Or what the hell does that mean? I don't want to not take it. You can do Psychic or Necrotic, that's not part of this build. But now we also get Key Empowered Strikes, so your unarmed attacks count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistances and immunity to non-magical attacks. We get an additional 15 feet, I thought it was 10, it's an additional 15 feet, and wholeness of body. So regain half your key points and enter a temporary state of wholeness where you regain key points and have an extra bonus action. Absolutely crucial here. Key points are going to be so important for this. We're going to take one last level here in the monk. Jump into level 7. That's going to give us evasion. So now when a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful dex saving throw, it deals no damage if you succeed and only half if you fail. And lastly, stillness of mind. You can no longer be charmed or frightened. Lovely. If you are charmed or frightened, you automatically cast stillness of mind to remove the condition. It is very, very, very good because those two effects you're going to deal with throughout the entirety of the game, and they are not fun to deal with, but you already kind of have a nice stack against them because you have wisdom +4. Still, it's just nice to have that taken care of. So we're going to accept here. This is going to push us into, it'll say monk, but we're pushing now back into cleric. So now we get into our cleric and we get more spell levels, which is fun, and we get domain spells. The domain spells are good and bad, just depends on which ones. Like this one, for example, Scorching Ray, I absolutely love. Does fire damage, pretty cool, pretty fun, pretty flavorful. Not a huge fan of Flaming Sphere, just kind of sucks. And it is also a concentration spell, so I'm not a huge fan of those. As far as our abilities go, Spiritual Weapon's always nice because it just adds something to the battlefield for the AI to attack that you don't need to deal with, which is lovely, right? That's a nice one. Hold Person is always good if it goes off, because then that thing cannot do anything for the entirety of the time it's held. Silence is always very great to just shut down any kind of casting. Enhance Ability is good because you gain advantage on ability checks with a chosen ability. So if you're trying to, say, maybe have a thief open a chest, you can use Enhance Ability, whatever it is. Even just something simple like Prayer of Healing is nice because it's basically a free form of short rest. It does just simply cost you a level 2 spell slot, so keep that in mind. But let's go with, I just Hold Person. Stick with that. Take another level here, and we'll get level 4. And I think for cantrips, we'll just go with Resistance. Oh, I gotta really hate it. We'll do Thaumaturgy. Gain advantage on intimidation and performance checks. For feats, I'm going to go with Mobile to really add a ton of movement speed to this character. I think it'll be very fun to showcase that. Other abilities here. Warding Bond is actually pretty cool here. Ward an ally, they gain resistance to all damage and a +1 bonus to their armor class and saving throws. Each time the ally takes damage, you take the same amount of damage. Each time the warded creature takes damage, the spellcaster takes the same damage. This can be fun to use in conjunction with maybe another frontline fighter or barbarian to kind of help mitigate a lot of that damage. So don't sleep on an ability like that. Did I get? Okay, that was level 4. There it is. So now we're into level 5. And this is what grants us sweet ability like Fireball. And Daylight will be useful. And this is going to be great. It's an always fun, just mega nuke of damage. Really great here. And Daylight. Daylight does not seem good, but I will explain to you why it is indeed good. Enchant an item enchant an item to shine like the sun, or summon a sphere of sunlight that dispels all darkness around it. Items can only be enchanted with Daylight for 20 turns. Keep in mind, you're going to use this throughout the entirety of the playthrough. It's very strong in Act 2, but I really like it all the way around. Now, as far as your spells here, I think you only get 1 level. Oh! 2 level 3 spell slots. Lovely. So what we're going to do here for this, and we have so many prepared spells because we have such high wisdom. I want Spirit Guardians. It's very good. It's already on here. Because this call forth the spirits to protect you. Nearby enemies take 3 to 24 radiant damage or the necrotic damage, and their movement speed is halved. It is the spell you're going to be using the most as a concentration spell almost every time you jump into a fight. It is going to be awesome for you. You will just be able to rip apart stuff with it. And outside of that, you can jump into something like Beacon of Hope if you want to help out with healing. I love Glyph of Warding. It's probably one of my favorite spells. And you can have a lot of fun changing the elements of this. And you can even use ones to just push things around and knock them all over the place. This gives you a little bit of that kind of 4 element touch, whatever the hell it is. The 4 element monk flavor with all the damage capability of the open hand monk. There's a lot of fun to be had here. So This concludes our leveling. Let's talk about some gear. Actually, before that, let's talk about some monk things like key points and what have you. So here's our bar. We have 8 key points. We have only 1 channel divinity point. That's okay. Fun stuff, because it replenishes on short rest. So you can kind of have this going pretty often. Same thing here with your key points. So we click this button right here, and it shows us what we can use our key points on, such as Flurry of Blows. Look what that does. And I'm cheating right now. I've got a ton of items on here that add to this, right? So 24 to 40 damage, and we have all of our Step of the Winds, which we use our key points on, right? Then Channel Divinity. You can see this, Radiance of Dawn. This is going to do 14 to 32 damage. A lot of fun capabilities here. But let's go to passives. We have all those passives we talked about earlier. So now we can turn on Manifestation of Soul. So your unarmed attacks deal an additional 5 to 8 radiant damage. Come back over here, look at Flurry of Blows. 34 to 56 damage coming out of this. It is sweet. I am stoked to show you more. But this just gives you an example of how you'll be basically punching small sunbursts into people with a lot of the fun from this build. Talking about gear, really kind of narrow things down. Weapons, we don't even need to worry about. There's only one weapon to really talk about. It's this one, Hammer of the Just. You only get it in Act 3, and by then, all the things that kind of really help out with being unarmed take over. And you'd only be able to use this if you maybe started with like a dwarf or something. I just wanted to showcase it because it does add radiant damage, and I originally had this build in mind using Paladin. But I said, you know what? It's more fun doing this as a monk, and we're going to go through all of our items to talk about that. So all the items we're wearing right now are kind of most of the min-maxy ones. There's only one item that is not in here that I don't have, and we'll go over that in our ring section. Horns of the Berserker are a very good headpiece here. We have a lot of alternative ones here, but for the head, you gain +2 bonus to attack rolls when attacking creatures that have already taken damage, which is great. And Bloodthirst, unarmed and melee attacks will deal an additional 2 necrotic damage as long as you don't have your full health. If you don't deal any damage this turn, though, you do take 1 to 4. So it's a nice way to just have more damage. But outside of that, you can get the Scabby Pugilist Circlet in Act 3. Your weapon and unarmed attacks deal an additional 2 damage while surrounded by 2 or more foes. I hate those kind of circumstantial ones that require you to be surrounded by foes because you don't really want to be in that situation. But nonetheless, this would allow you to take advantage of that, and it's a perfectly fine one to use. Also, one I don't have that's very good that you're going to get in just simply in Act 2 is the Hat of Uninhibited Kushigo. After dealing damage with an unarmed attack or a monk weapon, the wearer gains a +1 bonus to their spell save DC until the end of their turn. It's a great monk helmet that you can get very early in the game. Just go ahead and stick with it, and it has a really cool look. I wish I had picked it up earlier. But those are your helmets. As far as other gear goes, we do have the Cloak of Protection, which is just kind of like always good. +1 armor class, +1 to saving throw. You can use the Cloak of Elemental Absorption to absorb elemental damage and do damage back. You very rarely will be dealing with radiance damage to yourself, so getting the bonus of this is not going to help you as much. But Vivacious Cloak is also nice. You gain 8 temp hit points after casting a spell while in melee, and you have plenty of spells to be cast in melee. So all 3 of those cloaks are going to be quite good for you. Chest pieces, really just use whatever you find. You're going to find the Armor of the Uninhibited Kushigo at the end of Act 1 as a reward for a quest. You can stick with that. You can stick with whatever barbarian armor you find in Act 1 at the Emerald Grove. It just, as long as it doesn't say medium, light, or heavy armor, that's all you need. But in Act 3, you'll get the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation. Whenever the wearer succeeds on a saving throw against a spell, they regain 1 to 4 hit points, which is always great. But the Greater Kushigo counter here, the wearer can use a reaction to make an unarmed strike against any attacker that misses them. That's a great way to basically weaponize anytime that anyone misses you, and it's +2 to your AC. So you can see our AC right now is through the roof across both our Dex and our Wisdom scores. Gives us quite a bit here. Now, probably one of the most important pieces in this gear set is this. The Seraphic Pugilist Gloves. Your unarmed attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage, and now you get a level 4 Guiding Bolt as just a bound spell. Of course, it's going to be every long rest, but that's a free 7 to 42 damage, and your next attack roll against this target has advantage. So basically, you could use this where you cast Guiding Bolt, It lasts for 2 turns, and then you use your bonus action to use Flurry of Blows to really stack a lot of damage into the target. A lot of great ways you can use these two in conjunction. Outside of that, though, you can get access to the Luminous Gloves in Act 2, which are going to be great. So when the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 1 turn of Radiating Orb. And this is important because Radiating Orb, you'll take a look here, affected entity has -1 to attack rolls per remaining turn. It also sheds bright light. It counts as being illuminated. And that's important once we talk about our rings. And in fact, I'll just jump to that right now. The other one you can go with is Gloves of Uninhibited Kushigo, but this deals more with throwing damage and improvised weapons. It's just I wanted to showcase another kind of weapon or Uninhibited Kushigo item. But when it comes to illuminated things, let's talk about that. Let's talk about our rings. So I have Coruscation Ring. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, they also inflict a radiating orb upon the target for 2 turns. Okay, well, what the hell why do I care about those 2 things? So now I've got radiating orbs that are going to do damage here, right? And if I do radiant damage, my radiating orb plus these gloves is going to last for 3 turns, which is -3 to their attack. But also, I get this ring called the Callous Glow Ring. The wearer deals an additional 2 points of damage against creatures that are illuminated. And doesn't do radiant damage, unfortunately, but it does trigger with the whole radiant system you have going on. And it's creatures that are illuminated. So if you have something lit up by daylight, that counts as being illuminated when you do swap off of those gloves that we talked about a little bit. So you use all 3 of these items in conjunction very early in the game, and it really allows you to stack a lot of radiance damage into things and really keep those radiant orbs going, especially because your Radiance of Dawn will put radiant orbs on everyone it hits. So they'll all be illuminated. So it's just a great amount of wombo comboing you can do with all 3 of these items. Now, outside of those items, though, I have 2 other ones. The Ring of Regeneration here at the beginning of your turn. Ring activates and you heal 1 to 4 hit points. Just always a really solid one. And a Killer Sweetheart for just guaranteed crit attacks. It's always nice to just kind of have this one on tap. There is another set of gloves here that I don't know where they are. Oh, no, it's not the gloves. Forget what I said. It's the boots. The Uninhibited Kushigo boots here. The wearer deals additional damage equal to their Wisdom modifier with unarmed strikes. So this, as you can see, all these things really lean into each other to make it so that our unarmed strike is just an absolute powerhouse of damage. And it is really, really good. Now, boots that you can find throughout the game, just find some nice mobility ones. Something like this, the Boots of Aid and Comfort. When the wearer heals a target, it gains an additional 3 temp hit points. You'll get this very early, and since you have the ability to kind of like do some healing if you want, you can use those. But Click Heals is nice, because this allows you to use a bonus action to gain speed and freedom of movement. So your movement speed doubles and enemies have disadvantage on opportunity attacks against you. So you get these early and they're great mobility boots. Also, our evasive shoes, you'll find these from Mattis, the little tiefling thief in Emerald Grove. And if you keep her alive, she'll be in Act 3 as well. But this gives you acrobatics +1 and armor class +1. Just free AC to have onto your character if you so wish. Now, as far as your amulets go, you'll get this in Act 1, a Sentient Amulet. You'll have to do some wisdom scores. You'll get this in the Grimforge. It gives you Shatter, gives you Key Restoration, and as you go through and complete the quest in Act 3, you'll lose the thing that constantly detracts from your character, which is nice. But the nice thing about this is, it gives us Key Restoration. So, using the spiritual energy in the amulet, you restore a number of key points equal to your martial arts die. Keep in mind, your key points regenerate on short rest. So this allows you to keep your key points online for just a little bit longer than having to go through 2 short rests and then go to do a long rest. You can get basically 2.5 short rests while using this amulet. So it's very nice. But another direction you can lean, rather than the key points, is in the Amulet of the Devout. You'll find this underneath the Storm Tabernacle. So you gain +2 bonus to spell save DC, and you gain an additional use of Channel Divinity. Once used, it is restored upon taking a long rest. So Channel Divinity does restore on short rest, but with this ability, it's going to give you 1 more use of it, but that will only regenerate on a long rest. So again, it's the same exact thing as key restoration. It just depends on what you, the player, want to get the benefit out of, right? Do I want to really lean heavier into my key or heavier into my channel divinity? Then use the one that corresponds to you. And then just a good old one is Amulet of the Harpers, advantage on wisdom saving throws. Since you already have proficiency on your wisdom saving throws, it's a nice 2-1-2 together. Also gives you shield, so a free 5 AC when you deal with situations as far as a reaction goes here, right? There you go. Plus 5 AC, and you take no damage from magic missile. Always a great capability. So, these are your items. They're very, very simple, very, very bare bones, but they're going to really stack together to do quite a bit of damage here. So let's jump into a little bit of combat. Jumping into combat, let's have some fun. So I kind of gamed this up a little bit, and I pre-casted Spirit Guardians. We have a level 3 Spirit Guardians that's just ripping and gripping through the field. Now this is going to do 3 to 24 radiant damage, and that's going to be lovely for me, right? And keep in mind, too, you're probably wondering, why did you cast it? You're not near anyone. That's okay. I just need to move into range, and it'll do damage to them. And keep in mind, too, I can move a staggering 90-some feet. Where is it? There it is. 90 feet exactly. So I can move quite a bit. And if I use like a potion or a spell that gives me fly and then dash, I'm going to be moving across this battlefield like no one's business. So we can open up this fight in so many different ways. We can use a guiding bolt that will then give me advantage on things, but it does a little bit of radiant damage, right? We can use Radiance of the Dawn, which is what I really want to showcase right now for you guys, to do a bunch of AoE damage before we even get into doing even more damage. So let's go ahead and move right here to make sure we get this person. Now we're going to get all these people. They're going to get hit with Radiance of Dawn. Let's go ahead and trigger it. Doesn't do the most, but it does a little bit. And on top of it, too, we're going to move over here to just trigger that Spirit Guardians across the board. So we can see that they're all taking damage. They're all being hit by stuff. And as their turn activates, they will take more damage. I can even try to opportunity move out of this, or disengage, move out of this, and go damage them if I want. I have all of these options. But for our action, let's see what we can do here. We can have fun with Wholeness of Body, right? To regain half our key points to enter a temporary state of wholeness. We regain key points to have an extra bonus action. This, again, gives us more key points online like that amulet does, which is really good. We can use our Stunning Strike here, which is going to do 7 to 28 and possibly stun the target. And remember, our base is just 17 to 28. We can use Flurry of Blows, which is going to be a bonus action. Don't worry, we're going to do that in a little. So let's have some fun. Let's do some damage. We did the Radiance of Dawn. We still have one more action to use. Let's go ahead and use Stunning Strike since it's such a big thing of being a monk. Let's go ahead and see if we can one-hit this person. Oh, 14, 10, and 2 damage. And since we have our extra attack, we just do another round of damage. And we could use that on another round of Stunning Strike if we so wish. So we can just kind of really do whatever we want here. You know what? We'll do it again. Let's just hit this one. There we go. 11, 8, and 2. Martial Arts, Unarmed Strike. Now, had I had additional bonus actions from, say, being a thief or anything like that, I would have been able to really have a lot of fun with this, right? I would have been able to do that bonus action in between all that. But we're not going to use our Unarmed Strike here. We're going to use that Flurry of Blows because it does 34 to 56, and it can also push things or knock them prone or stagger them. Let's go ahead and, you know what? I'm just going to move. Go. Remember that guy lost the Spirit Guardians, so you can see the Spirit Guardians here. Takes 34 per turn, and movement speed is halved. Even if they save it, they still take half damage. So stagger. So let's just bring this guy up real quick to see what that did. So we did Flurry of Blows, 9 bludgeoning, 2 necrotic, 7 radiant, and then 9 damage, 2 necrotic, 11 radiant. And it killed him. It killed him outright. I mean, he didn't have full health, but still. So you can see that this build has a lot of fun. It uses a lot of things. It really leans into this radiant damage direction. And when you're dealing with a lot of the dark things in this game, a lot of the shadow creatures, which you will deal with tons of in the second act, you'll find that this character can blitz through almost everything. I cast Daylight here to illuminate things to do more damage and stuff like that. But with all the special abilities you have as an open hand monk and all the ways that you can really lean into them, this is probably one of my favorite melee classes that I've been able to showcase. If the Storm Sorcerer was probably my favorite pure caster, this is up there with one of my favorite melee characters just because of the amount of fun I can have with radiance damage. I think it's my favorite damage type in this game, so I really got to lean into it and have a lot of fun with that. What is this? Oh, that's what, I was like, what is on my character? So try this build out. Go more into Cleric than Monk, or maybe stay how you want, or go split it 6 and 6. However you want to approach this class is going to be the right way. I mean, I have Shadowheart here, and she's already a light Cleric, and if I end this turn and someone attacks me, let's see what happens. I'll just go ahead and spit and push through that. They ran into Spirit Guardians, and that did damage them, right? So this is an example, though, of improved Warding Flare. I don't have access to this on this character because we didn't push them to 7, but if you did, you'd get access to this. And boom. Okay, well, it still hit. That sucked. But still, I can't control the RNG in a video. There are definitely instances. I'm just going to go ahead and... here, we can even do another Radiance Dawn if I wanted to, but we'll skip through that to see what happens if more characters attack this character. Of course, why wouldn't you blow something up? But... you have so many ways. See, they just jump into my Spirit Guardians, and I'm getting the benefit of being able to maintain my concentration because of my high constitution. And just to exemplify here how great improved Warding Flare is, Krolak's being attacked again, I can use this again. Miss. So it's just something that kind of keeps on giving, which I really enjoy. Oh, you pushed me. Pushed me out of the range of your Spirit Guardians. What a bastard. But you now see what this class can really do and how much fun you can have with combining the light domain and the open hand. If you have any suggestions or ways that you would change this class or improve this, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, or maybe say, hey, you know what, this is what I've done instead, and I really like them. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.